Ask Reddit by M367. Children of I want to talk to your manager parents. What has been your most embarrassing experience? I was 13 when this happened. My mom had made a reservation at a hotel for a trip, but when she got there the lady said there was some error with the reservation and that my mom's payment didn't go through, so the lady offered us a double bedroom for a discount. Rather than just taking the room, thanking the lady, and leaving, my mom decided the best course of action would be to scream, in the middle of a hotel lobby, "Nobody is going anywhere till I get my fucking room." She then proceeded to pester the lady, who clearly couldn't do anything about it, until eventually she called the police on my mom for public disturbance. Mortifying. I'm not trying to justify her behavior, but did the discounted room cost more than the reserved room? I could see someone getting angry. BC it might be a bait and switch situation. Not my parent but grandparent. When I was around 10 years old my grandmother went out and got us, her, my brother, and me, McDonald's. We got home and we didn't have napkins in the bags. No big deal, right? We have paper towels and napkins in the house. Also me and my brother are pretty good with not making any messes while we eat. Nope. Grandmother got us in the car, drove back to McDonald's, demanded a manager, and screeched about how upset she was that we didn't get any napkins. I wanted to just melt into the floor and disappear. It's just napkins, nanny. Edit, changed wording a little bit. She drove all the way back over napkins. I don't even consider driving back if I get someone else's order entirely. I'd rather just be done with going out and eat. I do not understand the amount of energy she is willing to dedicate to such pettiness. When I was a young child on a long distance flight my mother let me and my brother sleep on the floor. For safety reasons the flight attendants told my mother that we were not allowed to sleep on the floor. She started to argue with the flight attendants who then turned to the pilots. The pilots threatened to turn the plane around unless we get up from the floor, but she continued to argue. The pilots announced they were about to turn around because of my mother, so all the passengers got pissed. Eventually she caved in when she had all passengers and flight crew on a Boeing 747 against her. I like that a parent got hit with the "I will turn this thing around" card. Before Value Village, Savers in the States I think, changed policies. She would cut tags to get discounts since the cashiers would basically make up whatever price they thought it would be, on the spot. If they highballed it, she would get a manager involved and I hated that. Lots of second-hand thrift shops now have a rule that items without tags will not be sold, likely for the above scenario. I was with my parents on vacation and the hotel put charges on the bill by accident. My mom marched to the front desk and demanded to see the manager. There was a long line, but she cut right in front of it. The manager wasn't very helpful, probably because she was rude. So my mom went to all the other customers in line and told them that the hotel was a scam and they were ripping us off with fake charges. She made a scene. The hotel called the police and we were escorted off the premises by actual cops. I died inside. There really is an art to stuff like this and your mom obviously doesn't have it. You can be mad, just don't be rude. I remember a time we were on a Vegas trip with extended family. Cousin was having a super trashy wedding there, and my aunt and uncle booked a room in the Luxor, non-smoking. They were given their room key. It was a smoking room. My aunt was pissed, but with all her fury she spun up some charm as well and they were upgraded to one of those rooms that were less rooms and more like 3-bedroom apartment. You gotta not be a dick when you're mad and people will give you everything to make their mistake go away. My mum demanded to see a cafe's hygiene certificate when she saw an employee go from cutting cake in the kitchen to handling money at the till, even though the real problem is going the other way. How do you know that that cake wasn't actually hollow and filled with cocaine and tuberculosis? Hectometers? I might be late, but my dad once asked the guy at the Verizon wireless store to give him his own social security number because he asked for my dad's. My dad walked out afterwards with some stranger's SS number on a post-it. I was a silent bystander because I really wanted my first phone. I hope the guy didn't actually give your dad his SSN lol. My father consistently returns food to grocery stores when he isn't satisfied with the quality. The worst is when he returns the 2-pound bricks of cheddar cheese because they went moldy before they should have. I left this in my trunk since June and it hasn't even cracked 30 Celsius outside yet. Deleted. Used to serve in a restaurant. I used to relay messages to the cook when a customer really liked something and I always got the same response: "I don't fucking care. Thank you for the gold." About once a month my dad gets drunk and calls various customer service centers demanding stuff. Once he finally gets off the phone, frequently 45+ minutes later, he spends the next few days telling us all about how he slew the customer service dragon and boy, people sure don't appreciate their customers nowadays, blah blah blah. No duh, Dad, you're being an asshole. No one appreciates that. If you've worked for DirecTV customer service anytime since 1996, I apologize on behalf of my dad. Edit another story for y'all. I also remembered one time MCD's was having some kind of 2-for-1 breakfast sandwich deal going on where the total was about $3. He gets his breakfast, drives 25 minutes to work, realizes he's missing one of the sandwiches, and proceeds to call MCD's customer support every evening after work for a week to complain about his wasted $1.50. They gave him apologies. They gave him coupons. But he just wanted to yell. Does he call himself a dragon slayer? Not exactly the question, but my dad was great with those customers. We had a small family business selling and installing fireplaces. For context, he, on more than one occasion, when getting the customer call or come in, after the installers had finished up and left the job site, to bitch about one of the men being rude or something, he could get this look of grave concern on his face. He would then go into a backstory, saying things like "oh no, not again," or do the open mouth, closed teeth inhale thing and just tsk and then start on with some nonsense about having told the guy before that it was his last warning and go on about how he was going to have to let them go. The blood draining from people's faces or the dead silence on the other end of the phone line was magical, followed by the customer frantically explaining that maybe it wasn't that bad or BL. When I was 6, my mom took my brothers and I out to Golden Corral for dinner. She went up to the buffet, got a steak, and came back to the table. She's an avid A1 steak sauce fan and cannot, I repeat, cannot eat steak without it. She poured out the A1 onto her plate, tasted it, and was instantly horrified. She proceeded to pour out the Golden Corral steak sauce right next to the A1 and it matched perfectly. Outraged, she called over a waitress and eventually the manager, showing them her little experiment and how she exposed the great steak sauce fraud of 06. My brothers and I were scarred for the rest of our lives. I still have nightmares about it. To be fair, Golden Corral shouldn't be putting lies and trickery in the A1 bottle. Right, so my mum and me went shopping, and she dropped a melon on the way out. She then claimed it was bruised and demanded a full refund. When she refused, she shouted at customer service and demanded the manager. I just sat there with a kill me now expression on my face. After, one of the customer service employees gave me a chocolate bar, so 7yo me was happy. I can't even imagine. My mom was the kind of mom that would look at our receipt, realize they didn't charge us for the buns and go back to customer service to have them ring it up. My mother did this in restaurants non-stop growing up. She would demand to see the manager because my burger, which I asked for medium, had some pink in it. At a family friend's cookout, not a restaurant, I bit into a burger that had ice in it. I was about 12. I showed my dad and he silently threw it in the trash. He told me to eat some chips and coleslaw instead, but don't make a big deal out of it. As an adult I enjoy rare steaks, but I can't bring myself to order a burger rare. Guess I made a big deal out of it anyway. Edit, it was not an ice cube. More like flakes of ice from the patty being frozen. My dad really doesn't like confrontation. I don't like confrontation either, but as an adult I'm assertive enough to tell a friend if they undercooked something. Deleted. I've been working at a grocery store for over 2 years now and I still don't know how to process a tax-exempt customer. I know it can be done, just don't ask me what buttons to press. Granted, I've only ever seen 2 customers needed my entire time there. Deleted. I work in a call center, and one of my co-workers spoke to a woman and explained a thing to her. I forget the exact thing, like, supposedly told her something would be covered and it wasn't or something along those lines. The woman calls back super angry and escalates to manager. Manager reviews the call and finds woman was in fact told the correct thing. She is still angry and insisting she was told the wrong thing. Manager replies, are you sure? Are you 100% sure? Because I am going to take you at your word, and if that is the case, employee will lose his job. Someone is going to be fired over this if you are certain that's what they told you. The woman did not give a shit, and insisted she was told the wrong thing. Some people are scum. The manager did not fire my co-worker, she had proof he was correct. She just wanted to see how far this woman was willing to take her lie. One time I was in a record store with my dad. He bought a record that was 19.99 euros. He paid using a €20 bill. The clerk took the money and put it in the register and gave my dad the CD in a plastic bag. I started walking off when I noticed my dad wasn't moving. As I turn around I hear him say to the record store clerk, you still have to give me my cent back. The clerk replies that they don't return 1 or 2 cents because they don't accept them and as such don't have them in the store. My dad replies by saying that is judicially impossible and asks for the manager. To make a long story short, one of the clerks gave my dad a cent from his own wallet. You'd think they just mark everything in rounded numbers. I wouldn't throw a fit to the clerk, but I would be pissed that they're essentially stealing from people. Just put it at 20 euros. I was young and my mom and stepdad took us to McDonald's. Somehow a nail or something got stuck in the tire which caused a flat. I'm not sure if it happened in the lot or not, but they were convinced it was. They went to talk to the manager. I don't remember exactly what their demands were, but they didn't get them. They literally went into the street waving people away saying that they were closed because they were mad. It just seemed like a ridiculously excessive thing to do. I wasn't there for this, thank God, but my mum once had a lengthy email argument of complaints to a hotel's restaurant because their smothered chicken wasn't smothered enough. One such email included the dictionary definition of smothered. Deleted. My mom needed to return some shirts at the mall because they didn't fit right. It was past the allotted time that she had to return them, so the employee said that there wasn't anything she could do. My mom started screaming at this girl who was probably about 16 or 17, calling her names and demanding to speak to the manager. When the manager told my mom that they couldn't do anything and that the return policy was on the receipt, my mom threw a fit and knocked over a display that was next to the register and stormed out of the store. I was probably 6 or 7 at the time and I was mortified. I apologized for her behavior and picked up what I could before she started calling for me to follow her. The manager was super sweet to me though and told me that I was a good kid and to stick up to my mom when I could get away with it. Gotta love that manager who can put up with someone's shit and be nice to the kids. I think every memory I have of my mom is her yelling at a customer service employee either on the phone or in their face. I always felt bad for the employees. I remember at least one instance in which I felt really embarrassed. I did an online program that was geared towards new drivers. It was all about driving safety and took forever to do. At the end of the course, the young driver had the opportunity to get lower insurance rates. So I had to call a customer service representative and confirm personal information as well as answer some things from the course in order to get the rates. My mom kept insisting I put the phone on speaker. Every time I did, the rep would tell me to take it off of speaker. My mom would then try to follow me around the house trying to listen in and the rep could hear her and said she needed to stop. My mom got mad at the rep and I ended up not getting the low. She sounds hideous. I was out to breakfast with my mom, and our waitress straight up disappeared. We sat for a good 30 minutes, after having ordered nothing but eggs. It was an off time, so the diner was pretty quiet. It was as if our waitress had just evaporated. Naturally, my mom asked someone if we could speak with the manager. She stops by, my mom lets her know what's happened, and asks if she can check on our waitress, our food, etc. 10 minutes later the manager shows up with our food, and the waitress in tow. She put our food down, then proceeded to rip into the waitress. This poor woman broke down in tears, apologizing profusely. We felt awful, didn't even bother finishing our food. Once the manager was out of sight, my mom found the waitress, gave her a hug, and a larger tip than usual. It was rough, leaving us both sufficiently embarrassed. Something similar happened to us. The waitress had left to do laundry. She was the only one there and it was just 2 tables left in the restaurant. After we gave her our card, she came back with our card charged with the other table's amount. They had several bottles of wine and steaks. We had pop and burgers. When she went to talk to the manager about fixing it, she lost our card and just kind of blew it off. Until my mother-in-law mentioned calling the cops and it was found almost immediately. Not my parents, but I was once out to dinner with my brother-in-law and his family. Our meals all came out at almost random times instead of all together. My brother-in-law demanded to talk to the manager because it was unacceptable that food come out at different times and he said something about how he hopes they don't expect us to pay for the meal. He gave a big speech about how we came out so we could eat together, and he knows this is unacceptable because he used to be a waiter, etc. I was mortified because I didn't think it was that big of a deal. My mom constantly does this, but one time really sticks out. We went to a local Mexican restaurant and as we were paying for the food she tried to use a coupon. The cashier said they wouldn't accept the coupon and my mom was furious. She demanded that the manager come out and accept the coupon. She caused a massive scene in the restaurant and it lasted at least 5 minutes. As the cashier was getting the manager, I decided to look at the coupon. It was for a totally different Mexican restaurant in the area and my mom wasn't wearing her glasses. The cashier and manager both came back, my mom apologized, and they ended up accepting the coupon. My mom once called Domino's regional corporate office awesome shit because a pizza I ordered for her, that I paid for, was too expensive. She did get 4 free pizza vouchers out of it, but I'm so glad I was not around for the embarrassment of it all. I ordered it online from my job in the next state. Why? Because she wanted pizza. My dad would sometimes do this at restaurants if the server was too slow or the food was wrong, especially multiple times in the same meal. He was totally right in being frustrated, because sometimes this was extreme, but we all hated it. The worst time was when we were in our favorite restaurant. My mom literally said, "I'm not doing this," and gathered up us 3 kids and we went to the car. Edit, you guys seem to have gotten the wrong impression. My dad was not a dick to anyone and he did this a few times a year at worst. The incidents I remember warranted him speaking with the manager and he was never rude or insulting. The rest of us just didn't care enough about bad service to say anything to anyone. Sounds like your dad was a bit of a dick. Ask your mum. We traveled a lot when we were younger and would skip lines at the airport since we were kids. But now we were all in our early teens and my mom faked having a heart condition to skip the long line to get on the airplane. Flight attendant would have none of it and told us to go back to the end of the line. I still remember the smiles and looks of everyone there. And you see everyone again for the rest of the flight. About the only thing my dad and I have in common is we like to go thrifting. Garage sales, estate sales, antique stores, and charity thrift shops. Thing is, we do it for different reasons. I do it for the fun of finding something unusual and offbeat. Dad does it because he likes to find bargains, to be one up on the suckers who didn't know what they had. So I was mortified when Dad went to the charity shop checkout and bitched for 10 minutes about being overcharged 50 cents. Left him in the store alone. When he finally came out, I went in and dropped $5 in the donation jar and apologized for my asshole father. My mom came to my school because she thought I was lying about what I got on my SATs. She didn't think I was that smart. No one in my school would give her that information because they didn't have to. She got to my principal and said, "I want to speak to your manager in front of me." He refused and they argued for a while. The principal knew I was an okay guy and the score I told my mother was legit. It was really embarrassing though. Sounds like you did better than she did and she's mad about it. I wrote an essay once and my mom read it while my dad was driving. I was actually really proud of it. It was my first real essay that I wrote in grade 7 and I had spent so much time making sure it was perfectly formatted and there were no spelling errors. When she got to the end she was just like, "So where'd you copy and paste this off of?" I think she meant it jokingly but I got super upset. I can't help but feel like I prompted you to ask this question. I'm sorry for embarrassing you. Were they a good kid? I remember when I was like 6 my whole family, all 6 of us, went to the dollar store. I don't remember much but I remember when we were in the car about to go home my mom was looking at the receipt and she noticed that the cashier gave them $1 less in change than they were supposed to. My mom was furious and made us all go back inside. She started yelling at the teenage girl cashier about how they're bad people and this is wrong etc etc. Then the girl said something like "okay geez" and then rolled her eyes while giving back the correct change. This made my mom flip. She started screaming at the top of her lungs about how they're evil and how she needs to fix her attitude and stuff like that. Another one was when we recently had a fire in our house. A bunch of ash and fire extinguisher stuff got all over the house and we got a cleaning company to clean the house. It was like 2 dudes and 2 girls. IDK what exactly triggered my mom but apparently she didn't like the way they were cleaning. She started yelling at them and lecturing them that they should know how to clean, especially the girls because they're female. She then showed them how to do it while continuing to yell at them. A lot of the bad outbursts were the same way she treated us when she got mad. She's got a lot calmer since then though. Deleted. Haha, I actually like this one. Well, when I was 10, my mom got a phone for Christmas, and it had a warranty on it. A little later my mother threw it on the ground and called the company asking for a full refund plus a new phone because they gave me a broken one. After a few weeks, a company staff came to our house and asked my mum what happened. She said that the phone you sold us was broken and that I was heartbroken. He gave us a refund but not another phone. My mum started yelling and told him that she would call the police for harassing me. She never did. Recently I asked her about it and she said I have no memory of any of that happening. Deleted. Deleted. If you don't actively write customer service manuals, you should. This is extremely well written and insightful. When I was in high school I worked at McDonald's. One year I skipped sports day and decided to work instead, because money. I was working in the kitchen when one of the cafe staff came out saying some crazy lady wanted to speak to the manager. I had to witness none other than my own mother call my manager a BBY-faced twat and go off about the cafe staff. I had to hide in the dry stock until she left. When I was 10 or 11 years old, my whole family, 2 brothers, mom and dad, had all been going to the same nice old lady for haircuts for a few years. She usually did cuts for all 3 boys consecutively. We got to know her pretty well as she was super chatty. My mom was, and is, very organized and always called in a few days in advance to schedule appointments. So she called in and a new receptionist answered the phone and took her appointment down, or so the receptionist said. We arrived, and my mom learned that the receptionist had not written down the appointment. We would have to wait a few minutes while our favorite stylist finished with her current client. My mom somewhat calmly said, "Well, if it's not written down, I guess we aren't coming back," then promptly left with us. The stylist even sent us a card a few days later. My mom had none of it. I think my mom was having a bad day. Spent 2 hours in the lobby of the MGM Grand in Vegas circa January 1999. We had arrived with family friends to attend a hairstylist convention. Friend's mom owned a salon and mine managed it, and we discovered our family suites had a window view of their dumpster area about a minute after walking into the room. Cue my mother storming back down to the lobby and demanded the head manager at the front desk switch our rooms immediately. Watching her make a scene and get even angrier once security was threatened on her was mortifying. I was 10, tired and embarrassed, and just wanted us all to have fun. Luckily the head manager offered a vacant presidential suite for all of the trouble after getting my mother to calm down. Looking back, I realize he did it just to shut her up and restore calm back to the lobby for other guests. To this day, I am overly nice to retail and food service workers to compensate for her behavior even though she's not even around anymore. I never want to be that person.